You're from a whole nother world, a different dimension. I've opened my eyes. I'm ready to go. Take me into the light. Kiss me, kiss me. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, the podcast where Matt and Todd go see a movie at our local Regal cinema. I kind of realized the other day that I always say cinema theater, which is like not right. It's saying the same thing twice, right?
Yeah, but you've been doing it the whole time.
I know. I never realized it until like the other day. Where we go to our local Regal cinema and see a movie, and then we review the movie in the parking lot with our personal thoughts, our feelings, if you will, and then you listen, and you know what? Maybe that helps you decide if you want to see this movie. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy, and yes, welcome back to another episode of us going to the theater, or the cinema theater, if you like. And we saw a movie. We saw The Quiet Place Part 2.
A Quiet Place Part 2.
Gosh. What a nightmare. A Quiet Place Part 2.
Shut it down.
Yeah.
Shut it down.
Podcast canceled.
My song that I chose never even got to the point of that it's about extraterrestrials. E.T. by Katy Perry.
Yes.
I realized that when I was halfway singing, that I'm not going to get to a point where it mentions extraterrestrials anytime soon.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that song.
I think so. I hope so. That's why I chose it. Because there's extraterrestrials in this movie.
Yes, there are. Well, so we've got A Quiet Place Part 2. Follows on the heels of A Quiet Place, the first one.
Yeah, not Part 1, just
It's
A
not
Quiet
called
Place.
Part 1,
Yeah.
but
Have you seen that movie?
I have seen that movie.
Did we see that movie together?
We
didn't review it.
I don't know if we did or not.
Because it was before the
our
podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Before the all you could watch, I think.
Yeah, it's possible.
Interesting.
I don't think we reviewed it, but
No, we definitely did.
I have seen it. So you've got essentially the same cast as the first movie. You've got the same players. You've got Emily Blunt, John Krasinski wrote, directed, and is in this movie as well.
Yeah.
Although I was surprised to see him, considering how the first movie ended.
Yeah, that's not a spoiler. It's just in flashbacks.
Yeah.
He doesn't magically show back up in this movie. He's
Right.
like, "Hey guys, I'm okay."
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's the basic cast. You've got the kids from the first movie, and you've got a baby and a deaf girl and another boy. And they're older now.
Oh, there's another guy who shows up.
Right.
Cillian
and then there's
Murphy.
another guy,
Yeah.
but
He's not part of the family, though.
he's not part of the family. He wasn't in the first movie.
Correct.
But he's also not a famous person, I wouldn't say.
Oh, I would say.
You would say.
Yeah. He,
Noah, whatever his name is.
Cillian Murphy?
Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
His character's name's Noah something.
I think so, yeah. He
Okay.
was Scarecrow in Batman Begins.
Okay.
He was in 28 Days Later.
Okay.
He was in several other movies that I can't remember.
Wow.
I wouldn't say he's like super famous, but I'd be like, he's been around.
Enough.
He's been
All
around.
right. All right. I'll go with it.
Yeah.
So-
If you've been a Batman villain, I think maybe you've crossed the line.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, few people in it. Emily Blunt's the main star.
This has been a podcast of me just correcting you. It's A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
He is a star.
It's all good. I enjoy the correction. It's great. So what is this movie about? And do you need to see A Quiet Place before you watch A Quiet Place Part 2?
Yeah.
My answer is, to the second question, no, you don't really have to see A Quiet Place Part 1. Because the way that they structure the movie is they start at the beginning with the same almost the same beginning of this movie is the same beginning as the first movie. You see a few different things, but by and large, there's one scene that's like shot for shot, it's the same exact thing. when she's driving down the road backwards and the bus is coming and the alien is popping out.
That's not in the first movie, I don't think.
I think it is.
I think it's just we've seen the trailer
Trailer
so many times.
that I think it is.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I don't think there's anything in the first movie about like how when everything showed up. Now I could be wrong. I only saw it in theaters and I haven't seen it since.
All right. Well,
That's what my gut's telling me.
maybe you do need to watch the first movie then, so you know.
My response to that question that you posed is that do you have to? I don't think so. Like you
Right.
can pretty much get the gist of what happened in the first movie by watching. It all unfolds in the second movie. Do I personally think you should? 100%. I think you should.
Yeah.
I think it makes it a more enjoyable experience knowing what happened in the first one, and the fact that this movie picks up right after the first movie ended.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. So I changed my answer as well. Go watch the first one before you watch this. Thank you again for correcting me, Todd.
You're welcome. I'm here to help.
So one thing that you do see, which is a nice little nod to the first movie, is John Krasinski's character goes shopping in the grocery store before the aliens all come.
Yes.
And you do see a little space
He's
shuttle
past
toy.
the spaceship.
Yeah.
That made me sad, but
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciated the callback.
The nod, yeah. So, space shuttle toy plays a role in the first movie.
Yeah, what's our stance on spoilers of the first movie if we're reviewing the second movie?
It's a gray area.
Yeah.
We have to be careful, I think.
Yeah.
So we will be careful.
I'll try. I can't promise anything.
We'll try to be careful. So anyway, so you open up and you get like day one, and you get sort of the day that the aliens came, and how Emily Blunt's character and John Krasinski's character escaped the town after it was being overrun by aliens and stuff like that. And then you flash forward from day one to day 475,
yeah.
something like that. And basically, you know, everyone's a little older. The people who didn't die are still not dead. And it opens right where it kind of left off at the other movie, A Quiet Place. And
Unofficially, part one.
unofficially, yes. And basically, stuff is on fire, and they've got to move on from kind of the place where they've been holed up for 475 days or whatever. And so that's how the movie starts. The family is on the move, and they end up meeting up with this other guy, Noah, who, you know, he played Scarecrow in Batman Begins.
I heard he was in 28 days later.
I heard that too. Yeah. So they meet up with him, and you know, there's general attacks by aliens throughout the movie, and but they discovered something in the first movie, is that the girl who has, like, I guess she has a cochlear implant, but she can take this microphone thing off her head that helps her hear and play it into a speaker, and it makes this clicking noise that makes the aliens kind of go crazy.
Yeah, like a high frequency or something.
Something like that.
And it also does not, it powers up, but it doesn't work. Like, she is straight up deaf
Right.
in
Right.
both movies. But they don't, yeah. It's in the first movie, John Krasinski's trying to fix it so
Right.
she can hear.
And that's kind of, I think that's how they discover.
Yeah, that plays into how they discover this ridiculous weakness for these aliens.
Right. Yeah, the aliens are very sound-based aliens, and so this particular sound can screw with them, and then you can kill them by shooting them. You have to have both parts, though. You have to have the screwy sound and the killing with the gun.
Yes.
Or some kind of object.
Right.
So one thing that happens once they meet up with this other guy who they knew from the town also, he's like, you can't stay here, and they're like, whatever, and then they hear this song on the radio, and they're like, what? Could there be other people out there? We never heard this before. And then the daughter figures out, like, she thinks it's like a sign and they should go to this one place and take a boat to this island, and they can find the people there. And also she's like, if I can play my broken microphone into the radio station microphone, then it can broadcast and maybe we can save people or something like that. So she sets off by herself to go take care of that, and Emily Blunt is very upset and tries to get the guy that they've connected
we'll
with.
Just call him
Scarecrow. To go after her, which he eventually does after originally saying he won't, and then he says he does. And so then it's kind of like they hook up on their adventure to go try and get to this island and take a boat, and they have their adventures. Emily Blunt realizes she's running out of oxygen because they have a baby that they put into a box, and the box seals up, but it has oxygen, so it can breathe, but it can also be quiet.
Right.
So
you
it doesn't
can't hear the
attract
baby
aliens.
crying.
Right. And so she's like, well, I need to go find more oxygen. So she goes out and has her own adventure, and kind of goes back to town where everything started and gets some oxygen tanks and stuff like that. And so then you're flipping between all these stories, and there's also the older son who's back with the baby, and he doesn't say where he's supposed to, and ends up attracting an alien. So you've got 3 different stories with aliens and people, and they're flipping between all 3 of them, and then everything gets resolved, but I won't tell you how.
Yeah.
In each of the 3 different stories.
Sure. And they're resolved in a way where it's obvious there's going to be another one.
Yeah.
Like,
might even be called A Quiet Place Part 3.
Maybe.
That's unofficial.
Unofficial. Maybe A Quiet Place, the final chapter. We're going to close it or something.
Maybe. A Quiet Place, Return of John Krasinski. But yeah, that's the basic plot. You've got aliens, and you've got suspense, and you've got jump cuts, and you've got gross stuff happen with aliens, and yeah. So Todd, what say you? What'd you think of this?
Well, I need to get this out of the way before I give my full-on review.
Okay.
Of one of the biggest problems I have with this movie is the same problem I had with the first movie, is that these aliens have such a ridiculous weakness to me that it's hard to swallow. I'm not saying I couldn't. It's just one of those things where you swallow and maybe you got stuck for a little bit in your throat. And you coughed a little bit. It's just, and it's crazy to me that they're like, the aliens are so dominant in killing everyone over a year and a half with this ridiculous weakness to them. So that was my biggest problem with the first movie, and it definitely extends into this movie, but that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy the movie or liked it for that matter. I did like this movie. I thought it was, for so much happening in 3 different kind of storylines. Like, you got one storyline and then it splits into 3 different storylines. Like, it had the recipe to be a jumbled mess, and I thought it did a really good job of keeping things tight, keeping things coherent. You understood what was happening. Even during, like, time jump and stuff like that, you really understood what was going on and you weren't lost. And I have to give this movie incredible kudos. It doesn't happen a lot. But I walked out of this theater with drink still in my cup, which only happens when I'm engrossed in a movie and I forget to drink it.
There you go.
That's a really great sign for this movie. A lot of, like, really great performances besides Emily Blunt's weird run. Like, from the trailer, it was just as ridiculous when we saw it in the trailer. It's just as ridiculous in the movie.
Right.
Such a weirdly delivered line, but certainly wasn't. Everyone else, I thought, did a great job in this movie, especially the main girl, like the girl who's deaf, is, I thought she did incredible. Like, I mean, it really is. It is this movie that kind of turns into her movie. Like, it turns into her adventure, kind of the same way that the first one, while it was about the family, it was also about the dad. Like, it was more so about the dad trying to protect his family, and this one is more about his daughter, who's kind of stepping up to the plate to further protect the family and stuff like that. And it was good. Very tight movie, an hour and a half. Like, it doesn't drag. I was like really invested. Smashing performances, and for like, when a quiet place, when the first movie ended, I was like, I'm satisfied. We don't ever need to come back to this place. Like, I feel pretty good. And then when I heard that they were coming back to it, I was very scared. I was like, ugh, don't be one of those things that ruins it by going into a second one. And it definitely didn't. And I'm excited for the third one. So, besides the ridiculous alien weakness, which is still hard for me to swallow, it's a really good movie. I thought it was really good. Go see it. This one gets my seal of approval to go see. I support anyone. Go see this movie. It's, the right amount of suspenseful scary without being over the top. It's the right amount of it's not gory, but there are things that happen, and so it's the right amount of that. Like, it doesn't go overboard, in my opinion, for that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's just really, really solid, really good. I liked it a lot. I'm not going to tell you my number because it's not that time yet, but it would be getting super high marks with me. And it still probably will, but not as high because of the weakness of the aliens. So, that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Matt?
Well, I think this is a great example of the type of, like, very suspenseful, edge of your seat, and you've got some jump cuts, some scares popping in, which are not telegraphed. Like, I think at this point we're conditioned when someone walks into a room and it's a really tight shot on them, the camera zooms in super far.
Right.
You're like, what's going to happen from right off scene? Oh, there it is. No, they had some nice jump cuts in this movie where they did not set the scene like that. It was a wide shot and they still pulled it off.
Right.
A couple different times. So, yeah, they got that going for them. And I think in general this movie does a great job of kind of building that suspenseful and suspenseful vibe is what I was going to say, but also they really take into account the quiet nature of the movie, and it really goes well into establishing that vibe. I mean, sometimes you go into the daughter's kind of hearingless world, and so everything is just silent, and you just sort of see things play out through visuals, and it's great. I would say, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I would say if you're going to see this, see it in the theater where you've got all the nice surround sound and everything
Absolutely.
set up for you, because they use that very well in this movie. So, yeah, the acting is darn good, and yeah, I agree that the daughter, I think her name's Millicent something, I can't remember her last name, but she does a great job, and I was pleased to see her back in her role.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I really enjoyed myself. I agree with what you said about the kind of weaving the story without things getting jumbled. They did a great job with that. I mean, hats off to John Krasinski, who has directed...
I think it's Krasinski.
Krasinski, sorry. I apologize.
I'm not 100% on that one either, but...
Yeah, well...
But based off the spelling, I think it's Krasinski.
That's fair. But hats off to him, because he wrote and directed this movie.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, he's directed 2 movies, A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place Part 2, and has done a pretty darn good job with both of them. So
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I would say absolutely go see this movie. I really enjoyed myself. I think it's a high quality movie. Uh, yes, the aliens have a weird weakness to feedback from a microphone thing that doesn't work,
Sure.
but still a great story is told, and one that I really enjoyed myself experiencing and wandering through.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, go see it.
Nice. Well, Matt,
Yes.
how many how many bear traps would you
Oh,
give this
yes.
movie, which does a bear trap certainly comes into play.
Yes, there's a bear trap early on.
Yeah. And if Ed's listening, there's no human head trauma, but there's alien head trauma. So I don't know where he stands on that kind of stuff.
That's true. That's true. Well, we'll try and get an update from him offline.
Yeah.
So in this case, wait, what's the rating?
Bear traps?
Bear trap. Thank you. Lost it for a second. There's skateboarding happening in the parking lot of the theater here.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm going right by the car. It's very nice.
I also can't tell if they're on a date or not. Or they're friends. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
It's distracting. I
It's
know
hard to
you, the
tell.
listeners, can't see it, but she's skateboarding, he's standing around smoking a cigarette, and it's,
Yeah.
whatever.
Well,
More power to you.
Maybe they'll kiss, and we'll find out.
Okay.
So I'm going to give this a pretty high rating. I'm going to give it 4.3 bear traps out of 5. And in this case, more bear traps equals more good movie.
Yes.
And so that's where I'm at. I'm going to say go see this in the theater. It's worth your time, it's worth your energy, it's worth your monies.
Yeah.
And you'll have a good time, I think.
Unless
you
for
hate
some reason you didn't
bear
like the
traps.
first movie.
Yeah. If
Then this one's probably not for you.
right. If you were on board with the first movie, this is more of the same goodness. So,
Nice.
4.3 for me.
4.3.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I think, I'm definitely giving it a high rating as well. It would be even higher without the weakness. It's just hard for me because it's like, it's not only the weakness, but you have these they really build up these just straight up aliens that cannot be harmed. Fire doesn't do anything. They're armored up. You can't shoot them or something like that. When you use this feedback, they open up their sensors or whatever, and that's where you shoot. So I get that, but I'm also we haven't seen. I'm more disappointed that the military seemed to just fall apart so fast. We've got some pretty advanced weapons, but that's not the point of the movie. So I'm trying to let that go.
Okay.
But I'm gonna land on a 4.2, which is it gets high marks for me, and I honestly I think that's saying a lot too, considering how much of a problem I have with the weakness stuff, and I'm still giving it this high a rating. So yeah, first one I really enjoyed, second one I really enjoyed. I'm looking forward to the third one. Hopefully they can finish out strong, and I totally endorse it. Go see it.
Great.
Don't bring your 5-year-old, but maybe bring your 13 or 14-year-old. I don't know. Depends on how they deal with suspense and aliens.
Right.
So
And bear traps.
Well,
that's going to mean that A Quiet Place Part 2, rated by us, comes in at 4.25 bear traps out of 5.
Yeah.
That's a very good rating. We don't give out above 4s very often at all.
Yeah.
And so
You probably count on one hand the
Yeah.
amount of times that we've given out above 4s
right.
in over 100 reviews.
Yeah. So we both like this one a lot and think you should see it. And that's how we roll. Thank you, listeners, for listening to our podcast. And
especially getting through this one with all the corrections and
Yeah.
this mystery date possibility that's happening.
right, they're getting in the same car now.
Uh-oh.
So,
Well, we got in the same car too.
We
Maybe
did.
We were on a date though.
well, that's true. That's true. All right. So thank you for listening, listeners. Please keep listening as you do, and we'll see you next time.
Da 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 da
Da-da.
da da da.
Da da da.